Yo, 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 yo. What's up, all you burner stoners and potheads, and especially all you gardeners out there? This is Mr. Weedman and Big Earl with the Weedman 420 Chronicles Grow Hour. How are all my gardeners doing out there? Big Earl, my brother, what's up, my man?
Oh, not too much, dude. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man.
Yeah.
As always, gonna get normal and get baked with you. And man, I'm excited. It's about that time.
Yeah.
Time for the show and time to fly high, my friend. What are you
Awesome.
smoking tonight now, my brother?
Happy hour. Um, a favorite. It's more of an upper, so I'm gonna enjoy that a little bit more, hopefully. But
I do like a good happy hour, and I do like that strain too because you did breed that one and gave me some. And I'm smoking Orange Soul, which is bred by you, my friend.
that one grown by me. It's from Trichome though. Trichome Jungle.
I love it. I love it. We've smoked it on the show a few times.
Yeah, it's got a great high.
It's so nice.
I took it to an
It's
F2.
the high. Yeah, the high is nice, and that smells like orange blossoms. You were saying what? You turned it into an F2?
Yeah, I got maybe 100 seeds off of to an F2, just like one branch. And I'm working on auto conversion with it just because it's really strong and a really cool plant. And a lot of people hate on that orange. A lot of times you get that orange, it's kind of like a lighter yellow finish and more of like an orangey finish, and people are looking for like that dark finish. So I'm gonna try to bring some more orange back into the auto arena and keep it nice and strong.
Nice. Yeah, I love it, man. The smell is just, you open up the jar and it's just friggin' delicious. I mean, just
Yeah.
the smell is like being in an orange field in Florida or California with those blossoms, just that beautiful pungent smell. So I love
Yeah.
it. I love it.
The stem rubs
We are
give it a black licorice, like an orange black licorice smell, which is really
uh,
really weird. I was
interesting.
yeah.
Interesting. What so last night you and I hopped on Discord real quick and we were just shooting the shit and we were talking about humidity and temperature, which is actually what this episode is going to be about. But a funny story is we were talking about humidity and like the range. We were talking about my house and how, during the winter time, the humidity is so low in this house. It's so dry and it's very hard to keep a solid humidity in my tent, in the winter time. And it was funny. I said I usually try to keep it around 50, 60 at times, but it just depends. And last night, after we got off, I went and checked the tent, got baked, went and checked the tent before I went to bed, and it looked like I had enough water to last me till I woke up and the lights go back on. So I'm like, I should be fine. And Big Earl said, 10 humidity swing isn't so bad, if as long as it doesn't go crazier than that. So I'm like, all right, it's like 52 right now. I'm gonna go to sleep. It should be fine. If it shuts off, it'll be fine because the humidity usually runs a little bit better at night. When the tent's a little cooler, the humidity stays a little bit higher. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go to bed. I went to bed. My dumb ass should have said to myself, don't be lazy, fill that fucking thing up and just do it. I'm like, I went to bed. I woke up this morning. First thing I do every morning, I do my morning routine and I come down and check the tent. I check the tent. Humidity is at 39. And I'm like, you dummy. You dummy. You talked yourself into it. You talked yourself out of it. You talked yourself into it. You just had this talk with Earl and you did it to yourself. And now you're panic stricken. I'm like, oh my God, what's going to happen to my plant? It's 100% fine. That Eat by Umami has got some strong genes. That plant is looking phenomenal. I cannot wait for it to be fully grown. And I want to see the fantastic buds I'm going to get from this thing. But I was like, holy shit. So I went in, the tent light wasn't on yet, but I still went in, unzipped it, grabbed the humidity thing out, tried not to get no light in the tent because I didn't want to disturb my baby's sleep. And I filled it up, put it back in, and it went back to 52 pretty fairly, probably within like 30 minutes. It was back up to 52. So it was nice. But we just had this conversation last night about humidity. And I was like, you dummy. I cannot wait to tell Earl this story because he's going to laugh his ass off because we just fucking talked about it, right? We just talked about it.
Yeah, I mean, and the good thing though, especially for you, is that the one night or even like a few nights where it's going to go a little low, or even if that's the only way you can run it, it's not going to kill anything. When we talk about our temperatures and our humidities, we're talking about perfect. Like, hey, if you want things to be optimal, perfect growth. So yeah, everything looks good. That's good. It's 39 is not super low. You shouldn't see it super like a really bad stress or anything.
She's looking yeah, she's looking pretty. She perked right back up this morning and all I mean, basically she's the leaves are pointing up
I
towards the
mean,
stars right now, so up
yeah,
to the heavens praying. So yeah, so hence this is our episode today and this is VPD, humidity versus temperature.
yep.
And we're going to be talking about what Mr. Weedman almost screwed up on last night. So this is great. This leads right up into it. So I'm super stoked. So let's go over a VPD and what is VPD. And just to let you all know, we are not experts on this topic. So Big Earl's got way more experience than I do. But we were talking last night, and we both, I have a lot to learn, just like I had a lot to learn about nutrients and lighting and everything we've been discussing. I'm not an expert at all. I'm learning to help others learn. That's been the premise of the Chronicles and the Grow Hour. And but Earl is way better at this than I am. So he's going to be running through these charts for us, but stay tuned for our next episode too, because we're bringing a guest on who is an expert on humidity and all the stuff we're going to discuss today. So stay tuned for that one. But Big Earl, so what is VPD and what does it stand for? And what is all this humidity versus lighting and temperature and what we need to know about, man? I'm excited about this episode to learn.
Yeah, me too. I had fun because I went back. This is the first episode that I really had to be like, okay, let me make sure I'm getting all these words right and all these explanations right, and I'm not missing a letter here or there. So the first part of atmosphere, we're going to go over the humidity, the VPD, the humidity versus the temperature, basically, and we'll go over some air movement stuff and the CO2 and lighting. But vapor pressure deficit is, you read it in a chart, or at least I like to, and I'll make sure to post one up on Discord. I probably already have one on there, but it goes over the temperature and the optimal humidity to get the optimal growth. So when it is, 70 degrees in your room, you should have a different humidity than if you're running a really cold room at 55 or 60. Or if you're running a really hot room at 90, you should have a higher humidity. So what I did was we went on and we just found a explanation that we liked. So this is from drygare.com. Vapor pressure deficit, VPD, is one of several methods growers use to measure humidity in a greenhouse or growing environment. It allows growers to gauge the impact of humidity on plant growth and development. VPD measures the difference in terms of pressure between the water vapor in the air and the air's saturation point, which is the maximum amount the air can carry at its current temperature. The point of complete saturation is also called the dew point. So vapor pressure deficit, the VPD, is basically the vapor pressure of the saturation minus the vapor pressure of the air, is what DryGare is said. This is what drives transpiration from the plant stomata. Stomata being the pores you see on the leaves. I'm like you said, I'm not an expert in this, but the humidity to the temperature, the best way that I can describe it is the VPD is going to tell you where you need to be based off of one or the other. So say you can't control your humidity. You're saying, okay, my humidity, I just got to kind of roll with it. I don't have a humidifier or a dehumidifier, which usually most grow atmospheres need both to really, really control it. But let's say you don't have either, but you can control how cold it is or how hot it is. Well, you can work a little bit then. You can say, well, I can make it a little colder because my humidity is not very high and I can land in my VPD more regularly or in my range of my vapor pressure more regularly. And that's how I'm going to grow because that's about my garden's best point. So when somebody says you have to do this and this, that's ridiculous. You can grow 5 degrees warmer. As long as you're raising your humidity a little bit, your plant might even like it more depending on what you're doing. So hopefully that made some sense. Did that make any
So
sense
I'm
to
looking
you
at
on your side?
it. It does, and I'm looking at the chart on my screen, and I'm looking at the temperature, the chart that you're going to post on Discord. I'm looking at the temperature this way, and then the column this way, where it says where mine, like I said, mine's about 52 to 55%. It's where it's been staying at, except for last night, of course. But so my temperature's been running about 73 to 74 degrees. And so what does the numbers mean there in the box, like the green, yellow, and red? Do you know what that means, or something we have to look up and just a little bit later?
Yeah, you know
Like where it says,
that it definitely. I do not know what that's actually called.
okay,
But with that temperature, it's basically what it's saying is from 80% down to 55%, 60%, you'd be within your range.
okay.
So, it's a big range, Um, and a big part of this, besides the VPD, is actually being able to keep it there. Because when you have those big fluctuations is when a lot of people really run into problems. When you
Okay.
have that huge, like the 70% humidity nights and the 40% humidity days, that's when you run into problems, or the most problems. A lot of people say, "Oh, it's too humid. It's too humid," and it can be too humid for sure. But I would rather it be stable at 65% humidity in my room than swinging from 40 to 60. You know what I
So it
mean?
looks like here on this chart, 65% between the temperature of, let's just say, it says here 59 degrees, all the way to about
90.
82.4, but it is like where the optimal seems to be, the optimal range is for that temperature. Like it's all green,
Yeah.
is where I'm seeing like the optimal temperature. Like I said, my tent's been running about 73 to 74 degrees because it is wintertime out, and my house is set about 70 degrees all year in the wintertime, 69, 70 degrees. So my tent stays about that 73, 74. I don't have a temperature gauge on my light where I can, turn it up or turn it down.
Yeah.
When I, in the summertime, when my house is 72 degrees, 73 degrees in the summer, my tent seems to run a little bit hotter
Sure.
too. So it seems to go up to like 77, 78 degrees, maybe sometimes even up to 80. If Mrs. Weedman's cold, she sets the thermostat at 75, and I come screaming going, my tent's at 82 degrees. What happened? You put the temperature at 75. So remember that, home growers, if you don't have like a small unit, air conditioned unit in your grow area, if you just use it off your house, like I do, like most people do, I think most small little home growers do, they don't have air conditioning in their little tent, so you have to understand the temperature of your house is going to reflect what your house is kept at all year round, is going to reflect your humidity, and it's going to reflect your temperature in that tent. Am I wrong or am I right on that?
No, it'll definitely influence it, and outside too. So if it's really cold outside and the air can't hold humidity, you're probably going to see that inside your house and in your tent. Or if it's been raining for a week in the spring, you're probably going to see that in your house a little bit and in the tent. But
Right.
for the most part, yeah, your house can buffer a lot of that like swing out, or at least it seems like mine does in my tent.
Oh yeah, I noticed that big time. All since I started growing, 3 years ago. I mean, it reflects the way my house is kept. The outside temperature also, with the whatever the humidity is outside, raining, hot, dry. I remember last summer was so hot and so dry the whole month of August that keeping the temperature in my tent set, man, that if you mess something up in the house, that tent shot up to 80, 82 degrees like it was nothing. Next thing you're opening up the tent up, you have like two fans blowing on everything to try to cool it down a little bit. And I know 82 is not going to burn it, but excuse me, it's still like freaks you out when I try to keep my tent at all times between 73 and 77, at all times throughout the year. So it mind boggles me a little bit, and it gets frustrating too. You kind of panic a little bit sometimes, like, did I fuck this thing up? Did I stress it out so much to where it might harm on me? Or did I stress it out to where it might just, some shit might happen? And you got 90 days, you got 80 days in, 75 days in on the plant. All of a sudden you're just like, what did I do?
Yeah.
So yeah, making sure you keep that temperature in your house regulated for your tent too will help your outside inside temperature regulate your tent a little bit better. So unless you have, like I said, a temperature gauge on your light and you have airflow and you have a little air conditioning unit or whatever you do, but most of us don't.
Yeah.
So most of the people I know don't that home grow in their small little 2x4x5 tent. So that I mean, bringing that, it helped me think, and I'm baked now that Orange Soul is wonderful. So I'm all talkative. Sorry, I'm stealing thunder here.
No, dude, not at all. That's
uh,
no, I totally agree. It's when you can have the humidifier and dehumidifier. Like mine just buffer. I got one set 5% under, the other one set 5% over, right where I want it, and it never leaves my area. So when the dehu has to kick on, it kicks on. When the humidifier has to kick on, it kicks on. And I basically am just cleaning filters and, trying not to break something.
Right. And my humidifier, I don't have a dehumidifier in my tent. I just have one of those little baby humidifiers that you buy for your baby, which is probably the worst thing to buy, but it was cheap and it was what I can afford at the time. It works well, but it's very hard to regulate your humidity in that thing. It's like one stop shop, one click, and it gives you what it gives you. So also humidifiers, let me stress this. When what I noticed on mine, I have to clean mine at least once every 10 days. And I'm not talking about just taking it out and scrubbing it with the brush, which I do like every few days, because it does, if you notice, you gain green algae on your humidifier. So I once every 3 or 4 days, I empty out the water totally, and I just give it a little brush and underwater. But once every 10 days, I for like 30 minutes, I put a cap full of white wine vinegar, distilled white wine vinegar, in my humidifier and let that run for about 30 minutes. And I give it a good clean brushing because you will get algae buildup. And also you will get I've seen calcium buildup too in certain parts of the machine. So make sure when you have a humidifier, you do clean that regularly. You do change the water, dump the tray water out and you might take the humidifier off and fill it, but there's also that water's been sitting for a while. Give that a good clean every day too. Like just dump that old shitty water out and put fresh water in. It is your medicine you're taking care of. So taking care of your humidifier is very important, because I don't know much about like what that algae can do to your tent. I really don't. Have you heard of is there a disaster period? Like if you don't fucking clean your humidifier, is there a disaster that can happen to your or just you have to throw the humidifier out because it's just not saving it?
So what I've seen way more than the algae being a problem, which it's you never want that for sure. You need to, like you said, you need to clean. I have a filter. Mine comes off of an RO and it has its own sediment and carbon filter before it goes back into it. So it's cleaned by a sediment filter, then a carbon filter, then RO, and then a sediment filter, and then a carbon filter. So the second sediment filter and carbon filter probably aren't doing a ton, but it came with the unit, so I use it. But the calcium buildup is what I've seen way more, to where like I point mine primarily at a wall, so I can kind of hit that a little bit first. But I wipe off that wall. I just don't want it pointing out straight into my room, because there still is on that with the 5 filters, one of them being an RO. I still have the white powder residual, whatever you want to call it. If I'm just pointing it, if I can hit a wall first, it really helps a lot, because
So
it seems
point
like
at
kind of stick it to it.
So if you're in your tent, don't point it towards the plant. Point it towards like the wall of the tent. Is that what you're suggesting? I'm trying to make sense of that because I've never done that before. Now I want to go to my tent right now and do it.
So there's also the problem when you hit the wall, condensation, and there's drops.
Yep.
So there has to be like a nice balance. But try to make it. I want my when I have to humidify, I want it to go everywhere except for my flowers first.
There you
I'm
go.
trying to
That's
get
what I
that
need to
off
know.
on a piece of wood, on my wall, on something, a filter. I have a couple carbon filters in there. I want that to get gobbled up by that before it touches any of my flowers.
I kind of like have my fan blowing at it too, so it kind of blows it away from the plant.
Yeah,
Does that
that's
kind of
probably
work? Does
perfect.
that help?
Yeah, I think
Okay,
so.
perfect. Good.
And that might be
I like.
ridiculous and might just be like making me feel better, and but it's little things like that I take pretty close up pictures of my flowers, and I don't see a anything on it, and people complain about that. So Um,
All right, that's good to know. Tip. See, we're learning. Gardeners out there. We're learning. I love it. So now the next, and we were talking about this yesterday too. CO2 versus PPFD.
yeah.
You and I talked about CO2 yesterday and in the past too, and I've had some conversations about I've not used CO2 in my tent at all. And we just talked about it, what you suggested for me yesterday. So what's the CO2 versus PPFD?
So CO2 versus P50. Well, let's talk about just some of the words that they use in light, right? So PAR, photosynthetic active radiation, is
Whoa, wait. Radiation. What are we doing to our plants
it's
here? Tell me a little bit
it's
about
it's
this.
basically a wavelength, if I'm remembering it right, and it's measuring a certain wavelength that the plant can actually absorb. It's not what we see. It's what the plant can absorb. It's measuring the amount of absorbable light at the leaf surface. Um, PPFD and PAR are used interchangeably a lot. I'm sure there are people out there that say it's different, but PPFD, the photosynthetic photon flux density,
So it's not the flux capacitor for
not the
that charged up
capacitor,
Back
it's
to the
the
Future. No,
density.
not the flux capacitor.
I wish, you look them up sometimes, you're like, that can't be what that means. But people way smarter than me named it that. So that is the amount of PAR that's actually landing at your leaf. That's what your plant is absorbing. So the PAR of, or the PPF, the photosynthetic photon flux, not the density, right? That's
And not the flux capacitor.
not the
Remember that, everybody.
capacitor
It's
either.
not the flux capacitor.
Yeah,
It's not going to get you
exactly.
back. It's not going to get you back to 1985 anytime soon. Okay, where I wish I was.
If you go back there, bring some pack prices back.
I'll also try to find some skunk for Nick while I'm at
Yes, exactly. That's
it.
that gets us to the flux capacitor, right?
Yeah, just so all you all know, this is going to be a running joke on Magic Beans for a long time until I find him skunk. That's one of my goals in life is to get
Life
him a
goal.
skunk.
So the PPF is basically how powerful the light is, or the source, and the PPFD is going to be what your plant's absorbing. So when you look at a light and you're saying, I'm interested in buying this light, they're going to say, this is the PPFD at this many inches away at this area under the light. So they have a chart, and the chart will have different colors, like very red for the really high PPFD areas, and getting like more orange and yellow as it starts to fade out. These are measured in micromoles per second. So that's how they measure PAR, and so they say, hey, this many micromoles per second is coming out of the light. This many micromoles per second is getting absorbed by the plant. Exactly. I'm
confused. All I'm thinking is right now because I'm so stoned is whack-a-mole. What the fuck is this fucking shit?
It's that you really need to know on this one. Again, we're just going over those definitions and some stuff you'll hear. So the CO2 versus the PPFD. How much CO2 do you need in your room compared to the intensity of your light? And this is going to be the intensity of your light at the leaf surface. We're going to talk about in a little bit. One of the reasons that airflow is so important is because it moves the air around, which has your CO2 in it. It moves your air around, which regulates your temperature. And if you don't have good airflow, you can't measure things correctly at your canopy. Your room's going to be so much different than your canopy. So, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But so when you're talking about CO2, it says, so on overgrow.com, we went on and just got a little graph. In the vegetative state, you're looking at 400 to 800 parts per million CO2 that your plant's going to really love. For me, that's really all up to they're saying that's what a lot of vegetative plants like in this graph. To me, I mean, it's up to how many umoles per second, right? Like how many micromoles per second, what the PPFD at your leaf is. So the same chart on the bottom is basically Matt, if you're pushing the 1200 U-moles per second on your light intensity, they're saying you need at least 1400 parts per million CO2. I
Tomato, you got tomatoes and cucumbers and peppers on there too. Some
yeah.
maters need some 1200.
They all, well, a lot, most of the plants we like and know, they evolved a long time ago. A long time ago, CO2 was way higher. We're all going through global warming, like, oh no, the CO2 is rising, and the plants are like, yes.
Maters are going to be growing big and bigger.
Bigger and bigger. Yeah, exactly. So I know people, I flirt, closer to my 2000 on my par at a lot of times, especially like real hard flowers, and I turn it up and down, and it's different for different cultivars. But this is where it kind of gets fun, because you can say, well, you know what, I kind of want to. So it's going to be a little warmer because my light's going to be closer. I'm going to turn my light up a little bit, which will make it a little warmer. I'm going to increase my humidity because I know it's going to be warmer. And I'm going to increase my CO2 because I know I'm going to be getting way higher par at my plant. And that's when you can really blast out your flowers. You cut every big leaf you can off of there. You make sure every flower starts getting blasted, and you're supporting it in the ways that you need. You raise how much you feed. You give it that whole boost together. And that is when, if you're having a problem getting weight and you're saying, man, I should be getting more than this. First off, a good rule of thumb, you're growing indoors, 1 gram per watt on HPS, if you run it double-ended, especially if you run a single-ended, 1 gram per watt is going to be a pretty decent gardener. On LED, we saw that go up to about 1.5 grams per watt. That is mainly because we weren't losing so much absorbability and light to heat on the reflectors. So there's no reflector in LED. All that power goes straight down. When you talk about bulbs, half of it goes up and then is reflected. So if you're running LED and you're hitting 1.5 grams per watt on your yield, you're doing a pretty good job. If you're running and this is dried weight, trimmed up, usable, smokable flower. If you're running HPS or any bulb really, 1 gram per watt, you're doing pretty good. Especially if you're not adding CO2. You're killing it if you're not adding CO2. So that's what I've always shot for, quote unquote. I have been able to get a little higher than 1.5 most of the time. So there is dialing it in there. But that's the most fun to me. You come in and
I'm looking forward to trying CO2 on this grow. Probably going to order the bag we talked about
mushroom bag
this week. Yeah, the mushroom bag and get that in that tent. And I'm excited to see what CO2 actually does for this grow, and then using it if I like it, use it moving forward. I'm excited. I have not been disappointed in any of the genetics I've gotten from you and people you've recommended. I've gotten good weed. Like I said, I just wanted to grow good weed, and I grow good weed. But to be able to grow weed that's going to get me a little bit more weight, a little more volume, maybe.
Sure.
I like to get some fucking monsters every once in a while. It'd be kind of fun to get a monster every now and then. It's like when you go fishing, you go bass fishing. I love bass fishing, and when you go bass fishing, you get yourself a monster. You get yourself what we used to call a wookalai. You get that nice 5 to 8 pounder consistently. That's I want to grow a monster. Just one monster nug. I'll be happy.
What I would do adding that just to see what it does is just bring your light closer. Bring your light closer, tries to raise your humidity a little bit and see what you can do. You probably will
I can do that
advance your food if you're growing organics again. You're going to want to feed heavier and earlier. But other than that, dude, I think you're going to love it. I do, at least. That's my favorite thing is playing with lights, bro. I love it. My lights my lights are so wonky. I don't have a single similar light next to each other. They're all hanging different angles trying to make one plant happy.
Catch every angle of
literally.
Yeah.
I love it. But one thing in lights that we should talk about, lumen, lux, and watts. Listen, this is how people trick you. Lumens don't mean anything absorbable light, anything to a plant. It is bright. If you have a lot of lumens, you can assume that some of that spectrum in there can be absorbed by your plant. If you're growing cactus, or something that does not need a super high power, you are probably going to be okay if going off of something that is rated lumens. If it's a grow light claiming lumens, it's probably not a very good grow light. That's all I can say about that. I don't know. And I don't know every grow light out there. All I know is that lumens is the brightness that we see. Lux is a brightness. Also, it's based off of like a candle, how much a candle lights up a square meter or something. It's not even important enough to talk about when you're talking about absorbable light by the plant. And these companies out here will try to trick you with these lights where they will say it's the same as, it's the same as 1,000-watt light. That doesn't mean anything. That means nothing. If it says the same as, look at what the driver's pulling. If the driver's pulling more than 400 or more than 5, I bet the driver's pulling 485 watts. That's
there you go.
And they say, oh, it's as bright as this. And I bet that if it's a company that's at least bigger and around, I bet they measured something like lumens. Yeah, if you measure the lumens at that thing at 6 inches away, then yeah, it can be as bright as that 1,000-watter at 2 feet away. Like, they don't tell you anything. So watch out for that. If it's trying to tell you that it's 1,000-watt equivalent means not the same, not 1,000 watts. So don't get taken. I've had people try to resell me lights, and I zoom in on the picture and say, bro, the driver right there says this is only a 400-watt light. Yeah, but it's 1,000-watt equivalent. The 1,000-watt equivalent, what does that mean? And it's the equivalent to 1,000 watts. So 1,000 watts of what? 1,000 watts of what?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm asking you.
Yeah, that's what, so it's like don't get taken by those people. They make me upset. But yeah,
I don't ever want to see Wes upset. I've known you now for a while now, and I've not seen you upset. I don't want to see Wes upset. I don't want to see Big Earl upset at all.
I only get upset when you're not trying to do the right thing in progressing cannabis. That's about it.
There you go.
I'm not right, or we're not right about everything, but we're effing trying. And if we ever find out new information, like, very gladly welcome it, accept it. Like, that's what everything's about, all the new information and getting better. So
yeah,
to not take that makes me super upset when it's pointed at weed. But
let's talk about airflow.
Yes, let's, please.
And the importance of airflow.
So we brought it up a little bit. Airflow is everything. Airflow can be part of your IPM. You can go into a failing garden and add airflow and have a decent garden in a lot of cases. Airflow under the plants, over the plants, clean canopies so air can get through it. I'm a super huge fan of using like wing fan, like max fans, wing barrel fans. I don't like that company, but inline wing fans, I'm sorry, because they shoot in a straight line and it's not a barrel fan, kind of like shoots out. And I go all around my room. I got 3 of them. And I go all around my room. I'll have like a little ducting, kind of like catching the breeze and pushing it around the corner a little, like, again, probably stuff that just makes me happy, but works very well. One of those on the ground clears the ground. Like, and if you're in a smaller tent, these are 6-inch inlines. They're huge fans. But just having a fans, you just try to get it everywhere. You don't want anywhere that doesn't have air movement. And what that's going to do is balance your room out. It's going to really let you see your true numbers. You might be sitting there saying, man, my room's perfect. But you don't have air movement, and under your canopy, your light is just building heat. And under your canopy, it's 95 degrees. And that heat's zapping out your humidity. So not only is it 95 degrees, you think it's 60% humidity in your room. It's 40% humidity under your canopy, 95 degrees. You say, why is everything turning yellow? All my numbers are perfect. Well, they're not. If you're not moving that air, the hot air out and replacing it, you're not getting true numbers. You're going in blind. So airflow is everything. Wall fans fantastic. Floor fans, fantastic. Stand fans, inline fans, barrel fans, wing, all the fans.
Fans, fan it out, baby. Fan it out.
Yes, airflow. Just make sure it's going over. You'll be so, and not only that, your plants will like that. Your plants want that being. That's more CO2 in there. You say, "Oh, my room's really good on CO2." Well, if your canopy is stagnant, your canopy is not good on CO2. If your canopy is not cleaned up and it has pockets of air in there that can't get in or out, that pocket of air, the leaves around that, they're not happy. They're way too moist. They're everything like the airflow, way underutilized.
So happy you used the word moist.
Moist.
Love it. Love it, because so many people don't like that word. And I always ask people, I'm like, how do you describe cake then? Can't describe cake as wet. Impossible. Unless it's a tres leches cake. That cake has to be wet, by the way.
Yeah.
But how do you describe it? You can't dry. You say it's dry, that means the cake suck. Or you can be like Paul from Great British Baking Show. It's stodgy. But how do you describe that cake that's perfect? There's no better word than moist. And my daughter O-Dog hates that word. I'm like, well, how do you describe? Duncan Hines on their packaging says moist cake. Why is the word bad? How do you describe? You cannot. There's no possible way you can describe a cake that's perfect but moist. Yeah. I don't know if you agree with that, but I'm so glad you used the word moist on the show. I love it. I love it.
I apologize to anybody who doesn't like the word.
I don't apologize at all. So I am not apologizing for describing a cake being moist. That's the only time you ever hear me use that word, because that's the correct word to use when you're describing cake. And if anybody wants to get out on the show and come on Discord with me and talk to me about moist cake, meet me on Discord. I'll be happy to have a conversation about it. I just got to take the box of Duncan Hines out. And that's all I got to say. Moist cake.
And these guys
go ahead, brother. Sorry about that. Oh, no. Positive and negative pressure.
Yeah, that's another way to control air. If you're, especially if you're in a tent, you need air to come in and out of your tent. Pull air out. It's naturally going to pull in somewhere. Open up an opposite vent. Take air from the bottom right corner. Open up that vent. Take it out of the top left corner. You want to take out the warmest air. Pull it through the coolest part of the basement or wherever your tent's at. Boom. Well, you're getting a negative pressure not only, so all the air is going to be going out of that fan coming out of your tent. You can put a carbon filter on that and completely knock out your smell, except for when your tent's open. If you stay up on your carbon filter, you don't let it get too moist in your tent. If it gets over 70% humidity in there, it will clump up your carbon filter and it will lose longevity on its life. If you can keep it at 60% and not have spikes, you can probably get a year plus out of that carbon filter.
I get a long time out of mine.
Yeah, it's when they get high humidities for a long period of time. There's a carbon dust typically in there. And some of them will say, "Oh, well, we have 3 different size." I don't know what the fuck that is. Why that's better to have 3 different size pieces of carbon, but it's basically 3 different sizes of dust. And so when it gets moist, it turns into a little rock. And when it turns into a rock, the air doesn't go through it; it goes around it. So you get a carbon filter with an inline fan, top corner of your tent. Open up the vent or however you need to do it at the other corner. That's a very easy way to get airflow over all your plants. You can put a couple, and if you're in a 2x4 especially, maybe a couple little 6-inch fans in there to get the weird corners.
I only got one fan in my tent. One fan in my tent right now. I got to buy another one, unfortunately, because one of them broke. But the new fan that I bought, dude, this is like the best fan I've ever had in this tent. This thing like goes like 10 speeds, and it's like a fucking like you're in a hurricane in that tent. It does a really good job. I think maybe 2 might be. Well, I can keep one down, keep it a little low, but that one that's like right now it's in the middle, just because I don't have 2. But it works. It works pretty damn good. But I also have, my tent I have a top vent that's completely open to get the air coming in, and then I have one on the side open that come this way, and then you have my filter on the other side, so it's taken in and it's got the vent coming out. So
Nice.
kind of just gets that nice airflow all the time. And then, like I said, in the summertime, sometimes I might have to open up the front of the tent a little bit and put a fan blowing from the outside in. Sometimes because like I said, Mrs. Weedman gets cold, so I can't. I don't want to wear a winter jacket in the
Yeah.
summertime.
No, that's nice of you. It's
No, she
plants.
would tell you. Wait. She would tell you different because we have some good. It's all about your plants,
Yeah,
Mister Weed Man. It's all about your plants.
it's our plants. It's
Exactly.
our
She smokes the medicine too.
plants.
That's exactly what I say.
That's funny. Um,
I gotta wear a winter coat in the wintertime. In the summertime, it's 90 degrees out. Yeah. That's why the air conditioner set at 72. It's 90 degrees outside.
you know where it isn't 90 degrees? In my tent.
Exactly. Go lay in my tent. It'll keep you nice and warm. Perfect Florida weather for you.
Exactly. Oh man. But
Oh shit, I'm baked. I love it. I
I
love
mean,
that heart and soul, man. Oh
really,
shit.
the big thing that a lot of people is knowing your VPD, knowing your humidity to your um, temperature, and then knowing what your lights are really putting out. A lot of those companies give you charts, and you can probably go off of those for the most part. But you know, I got a light meter. It was really inexpensive. I mean, by really, it was a couple like $150, I think it was, and I think there's some cheaper ones out there. Um, there are definitely expensive ones too. Um,
I bet.
so yeah, there's expensive
I
everything, but
bet. So what about drying in the flower room? What do you need? Like kind of what's the active ingredients, I guess?
yeah. So one of the things I really like about my setup is I have two dry tents in my actual flower room. I know that's not 100% ideal. Most people, I think, say you want to dry 60 and 60, 60% humidity, 60% temperature, 60 degrees. That's not what it is in there, you know?
That's tough to get down to 60 degrees unless you have like an air conditioning unit in your tent or something like that. That's tough.
Well,
Like I told you yesterday when we were talking about drying and drying too, my tent's usually around 68 to 71. When I'm usually in that drying phase. That's tough for how would somebody do that to get their tent down to 60 degrees to dry it?
it would be hard. How I would do it. So say I'm like, listen, I'm figuring this out. Basement's always nice. It's cooler. It's a tent. So maybe like I don't know if you've seen those 5-gallon ice ACs. Basically,
Yeah, I've seen those.
something like
Yeah.
that. But you're gonna be, that the only reason I'd say that is because I have done with my reservoirs. I freeze a gallon of water. I freeze like 5 gallons of water, and I'll throw a couple of them in my reservoir late in flower to make my water much colder. And so doing something like that with the air, maybe, but you probably have to change it every day at least. But that's why I like mine in my flower room because it's a little warmer than it would be ideal, but I can control the environment in there. I have a lot of filters in there. My air is very clean. And the dry tents make it very easy. These dry tents, if you haven't seen them, they're blacked out. Even the vents where air comes in is all blacked out. You have to clean those a lot because they are blacked out, and so I'm assuming very small particle sizes can fit through there. So it gets dust very easily on it. So I do clean those every couple of weeks. I vacuum them off really well. Um, but you pull air out of the top, it comes in the vents in the bottom, and it automatically goes over all your plants. Makes it very nice. I put two little 6-inch fans, one going up on one corner and one going down on one corner, and that's it. And everything's beautiful. Comes out really, really nice. So if you're looking for, say, you have a little area, or you just want, hey, how am I going to go about drying this? And you don't want to flip it where you grow it. They make dry tents where you basically can use airflow to not only cover up the scent, so you could have that going to a carbon filter, but to dry your buds perfectly.
Nice. Nice. I just dry it in my tent. I only got one, so I just once I'm done trimming it, put it in the tent, 15 days, take it out, chop it up, jars.
Yeah.
So tools to measure CO2 and temperature and par.
Yeah. So CO2, you might as well buy a regulator because a tool to just measure the CO2 is very expensive. As expensive as a regulator from what I've seen. And if you buy a regulator, at least then, because that's going to plug in and measure your CO2. But then if you want to add a tank, CO2 tank or something to get it up, because so CO2, you can do your mushrooms, you can have a tank. That's really it. Unless you want to bring in a burner, like it's like, man, it's always super cold down here. Oh, let's bring in a CO2 burner. That'd be the only reason I'd see that. Unless you have a large garden, but even then, a burner just adds a lot of heat. So unless you're in a garden made for HPS, I don't know why, and you're running LED. I don't know why you'd ever need a burner anymore.
Right.
they make machines now that take CO2 out of the air and pump it into your garden. If you want something big enough.
I've seen home growers with the CO2 tanks next to their tent, or if they have a little grow room, just pumping that CO2 in there.
I
Just pumping it.
I don't keep mine at 50. It does a lot. I don't keep mine. So I base mine off of like longevity, I would say more than almost anything. So I have a hose that goes around the top, a little 1/4 inch hose that goes around the top of my whole garden. It goes down every tray twice. And then I have little ports that I put into there. And I have my tank only turns on during the day. So when it doesn't sense light, it turns off. So at night it doesn't run CO2 because your plants don't need it. But when it does run CO2, I run it very slowly and I run it over the plants. So my CO2 is falling. And even though I have a lot of air movement up top, it's still falling. And the hope is that I can have even higher CO2 over my canopy than what I'm reading. But I base my readings off of how long I want to keep a tank for 11 days is what I got it at now. So
That's cool.
yeah, and that's fast. That's so fast. Like I don't like going to get tanks that fast.
Is it expensive to have tanks?
So people can take you on that for sure. If you're getting $13 or under, I'm happy with $13. Most places I think are probably $15, $16 for a 20-pound tank. The 50-pound tanks suck. There are 50 pounds of CO2 in there. The tank itself is probably like another 20 or 30 pounds. Those
Yeah,
things
those things are
suck.
heavy.
They suck.
Yeah, because I remember those CO2 tanks I used to have to switch out at when I worked in the restaurant bar industry. You have to switch CO2 for your beer lines and your soda lines. The big tall tanks, I don't know, like 5 feet, 5.5, 6 feet, whatever.
Yeah.
Those
Yeah.
things weigh a fuck ton.
Yeah.
Fuck ton.
Like if you don't have a dolly, you better be young. They suck. We used to have to like people come get them. It's like why or just can I pay for these other 2 tanks for you? Can you just have 3 20-pound tanks? Because that is infinitely better than having this 150-pound tank.
Right.
But with temperature, you can get a hygrometer. It does temperature and humidity. And what I have is I got 2 different brands, and they read them wirelessly. So I have one upstairs. So I'm always looking at my. I have the one upstairs shows 4 but takes 8. So I can go and click through my other 4 temperatures. But I'm always looking at 2 temperatures in my flower room, a temperature in my veg, and the temperature in my breeding tent. And then downstairs, I have a different brand, also that same stuff. So downstairs, I can read a completely different brand and those. So at all points, I can read at least one point in my rooms that matter to me, at least.
Gotcha.
Make it easy, yeah. The hygrometers make it easy. Those are cool. And then they make par meters to read the light. A lot of them will.
I have a par meter. I have a cheap one. It just does it fine.
Yeah.
They're
hard. They're almost like moisture meters for the soil. Like sometimes it's kind of hard to be like, okay, this is 100% accurate. But there's a lot of good ones out there, and it can at least give you a reading.
Yeah, the ones that have the 3-in-1. I tried those. The pH doesn't work at all. Never. It's never right. So don't trust that for your pH in your soil. It never works right.
It's so what I was always told with the soil pH probes is that you have to take a reading in like every foot, like all over the place. Like if you're in a little 1 gallon pot, you want to take 4 readings because over here might be way different than over there. And that's
Right.
why I was always told to do a runoff and try to get an ample amount of runoff from the pot and then measure that because it's a conglomeration of your pot.
Right. Yeah, you could tell. I mean, it's the light meter on that works fine. The water meter on it works fine. I mean, there's nothing better than your finger though, but it works fine. But you do, like you said, you do have to put it in different areas to make it read differently. So but the pH that I've ever noticed never ever was accurate at all.
I wonder how
at
it
all.
measures
So I never
that.
trusted that.
I wonder how.
I don't know. It just I thought it was working. I think I got it in my first grow. And I'm like, oh, my pH is great. No, it wasn't great. Towards the end there, I got bud. I got good smokable weed, but it wasn't. The plant did not look. The buds looked good, but it was taking all the nutrients from the leaves. It looked like a rotten banana. The leaves look like one of my plants. The leaves look like a rotten banana. They were yellow with brown spots on it. Yeah. So I was having some issues and didn't really realize. I'm like, oh, my buds look fucking delicious. But what the fuck is going on with my leaves over here? Mrs. Weedman's like, that plant don't look right. I'm like, no shit. It don't look right. Maybe you just get the temperature at 75 in the house. Mrs. Weedman's gonna hate this episode. I busted her chops. She's not here to defend herself. She might burst through the back wall like the fucking Kool-Aid man going, hey.
Turn the freaking heat up. I feel your pain, dude. It's a struggle.
I like the house in the wintertime. I can keep the house at 68, 69 all year in the wintertime. I think it's perfect. Wear a hoodie, you're good to go. Winter, I mean, summertime, I get a little, I mean, I don't like it, freezing in the house because it's stale air. I can't stand stale. That's why I hate the heat. It's stale air. I want to breathe fresh air all the time, and I'd rather have the windows open. But once it reaches 90 degrees and it's 80 degrees in your house, you got to put
it's rough.
You can't breathe.
Can't sleep.
So I can't stand stale air. If it was 72 degrees all year round, I'd be the happiest mofo in the world because it's just like that's like the ideal weather for me. I can live in 72-degree weather. That's why I keep on walking the dog, and it's freezing out right now. It's like whatever the temperature is, it's cold. I got to put a jacket on. I can't just go outside with a hoodie. And I keep on telling Yuki, I'm like, can't wait till May. Can't wait to that first week of May because it's going to hit about 70 and I'd be perfect just walking outside with bare feet and shorts and a t-shirt to take you for a walk, just cannot wait. So
open the window.
We're talking about temperature. We're talking about perfect temperature. We might as well talk about what we like in general.
Yeah. Outside the garden preferences.
Yeah. 100%. I mean, there's nothing better than 70s. I mean, now I grew up in Florida and I was used to like 90 degrees all the time. Your body gets used to that. When I moved up here, and I've been here in Illinois now for 23 years, my body is used to that nice low humidity. You get that nice good 60s and 70s. You just walk outside with a hoodie and shorts on. It's like the perfect atmosphere for my body now. Because my body has gotten used to that weather. Let me tell you something. If people don't believe your blood and your body and your skin changes from temperature for living in a certain area to a certain area for a long time, you're fooling yourself. Because I went from living in New York and then moved to Florida when I was very young and hated the weather the first year there because I was so used to living in New York. And then all of a sudden I lived in Florida for 13, 14 years. 90, 89 degree weather. I lived for that because that's what my body wanted. When it got to like the 60s, I was wearing a jacket. It was cold to somebody like me that now your blood and your skin and your body gets used to that temperature. Then I moved up here and it was a fucking shock. That first winter here in Chicago, it was 98, 99. Dude, we had a blizzard. I hadn't seen snow like that. I mean, we had like 5 feet of snow. It was my first time here and it was freezing. I'm like, this sucks. What did I do to myself? Right? Blood all thin. I couldn't go in the water either here in Illinois for the longest time. My body, if that water was under, because in Florida, the water in the summertime is like 85 degrees, just like bath water. You just jump right in. Wintertime, it gets 75. So it's still 70 degrees. It's still great. Here, the first time I jumped in a lake, I just jumped right in thinking, oh, I'll be fine. Summertime. I look like a cartoon character frozen out of the water, stiff. I was like, what the hell is this? I didn't go in the water. It took me like hours to get used to going in the water. It was brutal. And
Yeah.
now I could just jump right in. But it's true. So just know your body, like your tent, temperature and humidity, your body adjusts to it. So does your plants, and so does your tent. See, that's a good example. I'm fucking baked, man. That Orange Soul makes me a little bit smarter than I think I am.
Yeah.
But that's a good scenario of it all. Like how
Yeah.
your body, think of your body, how it gets used to temperature and humidity. Think of your tent that way. How your tent needs to react, and your plant and your baby needs to react to the temperature and humidity and atmosphere and air pressure and CO2. Think about it.
Yeah.
It's a living thing.
All these things are guides too. You might have a plant that is straight off the equator that's running 16 weeks or something crazy that wants it hot, and it doesn't necessarily want it very humid. This is just a guide to like the average plant.
Yeah, yeah, hundred
And so,
percent.
really
Yeah.
watching your garden is the ultimate. This
And
is
knowing the genetics you're getting, and knowing the strain you're getting, and researching that strain a little bit. I'm terrible at researching the strain. I just take whatever it says on the wherever I get it from, you know what I'm saying,
yeah,
or when I get stuff from you, what to do. But yeah, you should I should be better at it. If you're going to buy a genetics or a breed, you should look up the lineage and like where it kind of came from, and
I can tell
if
you a
there's
little
a
bit.
history of those different, yeah, and where just to get the optimum atmosphere for that plant. Like you said, I have not grown a 16-week plant. I don't, hopefully I never have to, unless it's just outside and I let it go. But to have to flower for 16 weeks, man, whew, that's a
Yes,
long time.
I had the original Death Star that I got from a good friend, and I was told that you have to run it 16 weeks, and that true Death Star lovers, and so I did. And I, towards the end, I can say it almost got like more decrepit on the flavor. Like it was very different, but I could see the appreciation for it, but it wasn't something that I'm glad I did it. I would not want to. These Death Star plants were monsters, though, dude. Both just two plants on a 4x8, and it was the whole every bit of it. These things were giant.
It
Um,
it's probably fun if you have a tent that you can do that in, or a room. You could be like, this is just my 16-week room. I'm gonna do it. This is my
yeah,
16-week tent. For somebody like myself, like going, ugh, come on, 16 weeks. I want to turn and burn. I don't want to, unless I don't have enough weed and I don't care. But still, it's just a long time to
yeah,
like
it is.
grow for a home grow. But it's probably fun, like you said, those crazy buds you were growing from that in the plant itself. So it's probably interesting to do at least once, to try it out,
Yes,
just to see how it goes, and see how some people might enjoy it, like, oh, I love it, man. I got this plant for 16 weeks. I don't need the weed. I just enjoy looking at this plant and how the flowers have developed in 16 weeks. So yeah, it's kind of
sure.
cool. So I mean, I guess yeah, one time maybe in my time, or if I have a nice outdoor grow and I could just throw them out there and let them just do their thing.
Yeah,
That'd be kind of fun too. Watch those monsters, baby, go 12 feet tall, and hell yeah.
keep going. Yeah, that's what. If
Yeah.
you got to be in a lower climate, maybe. I wonder. I don't think they'd be able to finish where we are. Because they wouldn't be finishing until like December.
Yeah, that's true. Unless you, yeah, because the way Illinois, I mean, it's March and we got 3 inches of snow today, 2 inches of snow today. So I mean,
Dang.
couldn't even put them outside. Start. I mean, what you could do though, it might be fun, because I think Magic Bean said this too. Start it inside, get through your veg period, and then put it. Wait like 2 weeks before you're gonna turn it into flower. Just put it outside and let it do its thing. Start it that way.
Well, so the outside follows the light cycle then, so it wouldn't. It would just grow veg until like September, I think, or maybe
Oh,
August. It
really?
flips over, yeah.
Ooh,
And then in August it starts flowering, and that's when it
yeah.
starts
So
like
you want.
recognizing the 12/12 late August. Uh,
Unless you're having really good weather like we have been these last couple of years in November, where you've been fucking still getting 60-degree weather, 70-degree weather, then you're not
you
so
might
bad. Then you can
you
go
might be
through
right about
November and
that.
cut it. You never know. I mean, this cold's gonna stay here probably through most of April. So I mean, our
Yeah,
winters
I'll
are
say
are
that.
our seasons are kind of changing a little bit. So you might be able to do it if you start that thing in your tent in March, get it all the way out, and then or whatever you want to do, start it in April, and get it
Yeah,
out there like what? Get it out there like early August, right? And then let it do its thing, and hopefully by November you're good to go.
yeah. Or
Yeah,
yeah, you just pull it when you can. But yeah, that would be
yeah,
nice to not have to waste or like put your room dedicated to that for so long. But that
right.
and everybody should try a land race. I think Landrace opened your eyes to some work that's been done on these genetics. My
Didn't
goodness.
didn't Magic Bean say he had some landrace beans?
I think he did. Yeah,
I think he did.
I've been working with a Lebanese landrace and for a little bit, and the first ones I grew, it was stems and leaves. Smelled like straight most pineapple plant I ever smelled, and so one of them was the most pineapple plant I've ever smelled. One of them was straight pink flowers, but legit they didn't grow flowers. They just grew little like fucking calyx, like single. It looked like it was just trying to get like knocked. Like it never got past like actually sexing. Like it was just sexing. It was frosty and stuff, but it was like such a terrible plant to grow. But I suggest everybody to try one.
Try it. I mean, like I said,
Yeah.
if you're growing enough weed in your home grow to last you like I said, I took a couple months off because I had so much cannabis in my stash. I didn't really need to. I could wait it a couple months, but to be able to like grow a nice amount that'll hold you over through another whole grow. Try it. Have some fun. Experiment. You never know. You might like it, and you might do something new with it. And just could be something that you enjoy. Just trying some different shit. I mean, how much weed? I tell this to everybody. I mean, I can't smoke all this weed I grow. All this cannabis I grow. I can't smoke it all. Just impossible. I give a lot of it away, but my thing is, I enjoy pushing it to edibles and giving edibles away. I enjoy giving my flower away to people who are in need or anybody who has an illness or needs that as medicine. I love doing that. So to me, it's like how much we can actually smoke.
Sure.
It's there's a lot, I have a lot of weed. I mean, I think I probably have close to over a pound in my repertoire right now. So I'm only growing one plant this time, not two, because I just feel like it's wasteful, and, but it would be fun to grow this one and try a landrace or try something fun just to see, because I'll have enough weed to last me, a couple more months. So it's just, for all those home growers out there that have a bountiful amount of weed, have some fun and experiment growing some shit, in your tent and see where it goes. So
that's where the new shit's fun too. If you're gonna grow a landrace out, maybe breed with it or something. See what it can make, because that's where you get the new flavors from and the new profiles, and it's not from messing with all the same cookie hybrids.
It's true.
It's from hunting through a ton of land races and finding that one that's crazy different.
Right.
And then working on generations.
Man, this hour's up, brother.
Yeah, that was fun. I hope I didn't butcher too much of that. But I think that I should get everybody pretty well started on how to approach their atmosphere. And
why don't you let everybody know who we got coming on next to talk more about atmosphere? So everyone stick around for the grow hour on that one.
Yeah, his name is John. He works with Andon, which is a dehumidification company, the dehumidification company. He's a friend of mine. I've known him for a long time. I really admire him. He's very. When I'm wrong about stuff, a lot of times it's him being like, "Hey, bro, you're wrong about that." Thank you.
That's good.
He sends me the article, and I'm like, "Oh, thank you." So he's a super smart guy, and I'm excited to talk with him about humidity, and I'm guaranteed he's going to get into temperatures and a lot of fun stuff.
Sweet. Looking forward to it. If anybody out there has any questions for John for on the next episode, please send them to Big Earl, and we'll get a couple of questions answered too. Anything specific you want to know about atmosphere and stuff, and temp and fun and humidity and all that stuff. So definitely please send us some questions, and we'll definitely try to get them answered for you. So Big Earl, you got anything else to say, brother, before we head out?
No, man. That's we didn't throw in the CalMag to vector ratio, but we can get over that next time. So just don't forget the CalMag. You'll be good.
Hey, everybody, don't forget the CalMag. Big Earl, my brother. Great one, man. Peace to be with you all out there. All you gardeners out there in the world, have some fun. Grow for joy and for love, and share the wealth and the booty. Everybody out there, we love you. Peace.